Today we're going to discuss some of the advanced API features. The rumble button will try to attempt a rumble on the controller attached. If you want to see more details about that, you can bring open the advanced rumble menu. That window has the ability to show you what controller is attached and how many motors it has. In this case it's identified 2. You could set them independently. The options are listed in each box. So typically it's going to be a DX, which is DirectX constant, and DirectX sign. That's normally how you would set that up in something like an emulator. You can test that here. You have some advanced features on the bottom. The constant force, the strength's always going to be the same. In the case of a sine, you can change that. And you got your duration, or you can have it infinitely rumble. The API also has a communication method that you can use. You won't see that in many emulators. There's probably never going to be a need for that, but it does support that if you wanted to test that for some reason. That's an easy way to test to verify that your computer's DirectX is set up. If the API works and the DirectX does not, chances are there's something wrong with DirectX on the computer. That's as advanced as Rumble gets, so we'll move on to the talk feature. The talk feature is kind of an advanced feature that will allow one to communicate with the controller directly. It's not understood very well by anybody outside of an emulator developer, but if you wanted to toy with it, you're not going to break too much. You can bring that window open, and we can type in a 00, which is a command that the GameCube is going to understand. You can hit send, and this is the reply from the command. These commands, like I said, make a lot more sense to a developer. You see there's an error. That command wasn't supported for whatever reason. Each controller, for the most part, is going to have this ability. If it's a type of controller that does communicate with sending commands back and forth, the picture of the controller should show up. So in this case we have a GameCube connected. This will work with the Dreamcast or PlayStation. It does pretty much the same thing. This data down here are the return bytes, and if you search online, you can see that the GameCube does accept a command 0, and it should return the appropriate data, and you can check that in this menu. Again, that's a pretty advanced feature. Not going to be very useful for the average consumer, but for emulation development teams, that could be rather useful. You could communicate directly with the controller in that case, and bypass the overhead of the USB. You can get all this data with certain commands, so it doesn't have to go through USB and then you extract it through DirectX or whatever. The other one here, the PlayStation PSX, is basically the advanced pressure buttons. So there are 4 extra analogs on a standard kit USB device, and those are the ones that are up here on the top: the Z-axis, the slider, and the dial. And you can set those independently to whatever button you want. And the PlayStation does support 12 buttons, and they're all listed in there. They all have pressures that you can assign to those analogs. Now the API tool will also read the pressure sensitivity buttons on its own, which was demonstrated in a previous tutorial. We can show that real quickly here. Connect a PlayStation back up. And now we can see that the buttons are actually interacting with the various pressures. And you can see that when you go into the PSX options, if we wanted to change, say, some of these to none, we're going to get that exact effect. Now those two aren't going to have any effect. They're always going to be in the middle. That may be essential when mapping certain controllers with certain emulators that don't like to have a 0 default. So keep that in mind. That can be something kind of handy. You can save that to a port if you want, or you can reset defaults and it'll put everything back the way that it was. The memory card is an in-work process. There's not much to show here. It's more than likely will crash the environment. We can go ahead and do that anyways if it runs. In this case it didn't. It looks like it tried to read a memory card, In this case, there wasn't one connected via the PlayStation, so it attempted to just read the controller, which are a bunch of FFs, which mean no data. But we can look forward to this, hopefully here in the next few months. This will develop nicely. We can finally read the memory card data and save that to a file and work with the emulator. If RetroArch catches on to that, which I hope they do, you can probably use that natively in RetroArch. Be a neat feature. The mapping button is pretty much all the buttons that you can have via USB, all 24 of them. You can map them to any button on the controller. It takes a little bit of experimentation, so play with that all you want. There's a default save. You can always go back to default. These are some of the 2.0 presets that's been used in the past. We'll probably see a few 3.0 develop over time. You can save those to the port too if you wish, or you can uncheck that and just hit apply and test it out. Again, if you find something you don't like, just come back in here and set that to default and hit apply and save the port, and everything will go back the way it was. The last thing is the Eeprom, which isn't going to make a lot of sense to many people, but just to let you know what it is, this is the savable features that can be saved to each port, 1 through 4, on a 4-play, or in the case of the Gamer Pro, a single port. Basically what you're seeing is the map of the Eeprom and how the API tool works with that. You can investigate that, and if you ever want to reset that, again, just hit the reset defaults and you're back to normal. That concludes the advanced features for the API tool. Thanks for watching.